Today's guest is Hannah Zhang, a startup product marketing lead by day and content creator, speaker, and mentor by night. Hannah's career journey is anything but linear. She started in investment banking, walked away from a six-figure role she worked years toward, and found herself asking the question so many ambitious women face: what now? Since then, she's built a career across product, marketing, and operations in startups around the world, earned her MBA, and has grown an audience of over 130,000 people by sharing honest, practical advice by navigating non-linear careers. Her mission is simple but powerful: helping ambitious professionals embrace the plot twist, trust themselves, and grow careers that actually fit. Hannah, welcome to the Her Workplace Unfiltered podcast.
So happy to be here, Marilynn.
Yeah.
So good to meet you.
Well, I'm just excited to learn more about you and your career and all of the incredible work that you're doing. But want to start off and just talk more about your experience in investment banking and then what led you to leave that industry to where you are now.
Yeah. Well, it all started when I was a junior in college. I was 20 years old and I went to my first Morgan Stanley Super Day. I know you used to work in real estate in that type of environment as well, so I'm sure you remember it well. And I was just dazzled by how glamorous it seemed, how smart everyone was. And I just really wanted to be a part of that world. Since the entire time I was in college, I worked really hard to get there. And for a while, it really did seem like that was a dream come true because it was. And, eventually I realized that while I like the work, I like the learning and the growth, I didn't like the work around the work. I think that happens with a lot of people where you might like what you're doing day to day, but it's the culture, it's the cycles of, comments and decks and optimizing for something that really you just realize isn't your own goal. And that's what ultimately, made me leave. And, happy to dig into any of that. But it really was a pivotal moment in many ways. And, that's what is a core part of my story that even brings me here today.
Yeah. Well, did you always think that you wanted to build your career in investment banking? Like, was that you were like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my career?
Yeah, I was 5 years old in kindergarten. I said I wanted to be an investment banker. No, that's I feel like no. I mean, no one really says that, right?
Yeah.
I actually went into college thinking I was going to study, literature or economics, and maybe work in politics, go to law school. There were a lot of ideas in the head.
Yeah.
And really, I recently heard the term that finance, consulting, and tech is like the golden Bermuda. I think it's like the golden Bermuda triangle of careers, or something to that effect. And just a lot of people in elite universities and programs end up going to these careers because it's the most glamorous thing. They come to campus, they recruit you, they give you so many opportunities. And in many ways, it is such a great training ground for the rest of your career. And I think that's what really stood out to me. So probably since junior year, I also went to school right here in New York, where the financial world is just so salient. And so that became a goal very quickly. And once I got sucked into it, they really recruit you, they wine you and dine you, and they show you the most glamorous parts so that you then go and sign on. So in many ways, it was a dream for me for a long time. And when I first got there, it did feel like that.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment when you were working in investment banking of like, wait a minute, I want to make a pivot? Or was it kind of over time, all of these moments that came together?
Well, in many ways, I think for a lot of people, even from the very beginning, investment banking is not the end goal, right? The end goal is maybe you do that for a while, you move to a hedge fund, you move to private equity, you move to a senior strategic finance role in industry. So for a lot of people, it is just that training ground. And I think for me, it was too. But I did very much see myself staying in the financial or the corporate strategy world. At the beginning, I didn't see myself pivoting into tech or startups. I just didn't think that was for me. And what really shifted was just over time, probably two things I learned about myself. One was that, I realized realized that I am just not that analytical of a person. And it was hard to admit that to myself because I had spent so much time working in finance, studying economics, and that was just what I thought was the case for myself. So that was one. And then the other one was through the investment banking job and interacting with companies, I realized that I'm more of an operator than I am the person devising the strategy, helping them raise the capital. And in realizing that, I realized I had to find something that allowed me to do that. And an investment bank, a consulting firm was just never going to let me do that.
Yeah. That's so incredible that you had that realization of like, okay, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses or areas that you're just not as interested in, because that's a good thing. Like, that's okay to say, you know what, I am not interested in this, or I'm not as strong in this certain area. I'm going to lean more into the things that I really love and the things that I'm good at. And it takes experience to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't regret for a moment that I started my career in banking. Still to this day, I think a lot has changed in the world, but I still think places like banking and consulting, it gives you a great boost and an accelerator just to the rest of your career because of what you learn, because you do so much and you do it at such a high level that you're able to learn those things about yourself. I wouldn't have had a lot of these realizations. Maybe had I gone into an operating role to start where it was a little bit more niche, I wouldn't have seen the whole field of things that I could be interested in.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to talk about that transition that you made of leaving investment banking, and where are you now? What has that journey been like?
Well, it's been a long road. The crux of it is I left investment banking, had no idea what I was doing for a minute there, and maybe more than a minute. I moved into a product role at a tech company. Then I went to business school, and then now post business school, I went into the world of go to market and marketing in tech. And today I lead product marketing at a startup.
That's awesome.
So it's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah, that's incredible. What was your reasoning for going to business school? And what was that experience like?
It's funny because there's a version of why I went to business school that I wrote in my essays, and then there's another version that was really true to myself.
Yeah.
The version that I wrote on my essays was that I had worked in investment banking, then I became an operator in tech, and to marry those worlds, I wanted to be a VC investor.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, I did convince myself that's what I wanted to do, but deep down, I think really it was that I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I wanted something that felt safe, almost a stamp of approval that you can use this next 2 years to explore. And to have a soft landing back to the US because a lot of my career had been international prior to that. So, knowing a lot of the things that I know now, maybe that wasn't the best way to explore what was next, but it was what I ended up doing at the time. And I learned a lot from it, made a lot of friends, and it ended up being a good experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went to business school too, and had a similar experience of I went into it with a certain goal or idea of an outcome, and it ended up changing me and propelling me into a different direction that was unexpected.
I think that is the case for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
You go in with a goal that maybe you think that's your goal, or someone told you that that should be your goal. And then you learn things along the way and you say, hey, wait a minute, right?
Yeah. I love that. So when it comes to career pivots, what do you think are some of the biggest kind of myths that people believe about pivots? And like, what's true? What isn't true? Like, what advice would you give to someone that's listening that may be exploring a pivot or undergoing a pivot now?
So a lot of the folks listening to this, you probably work in finance and business, maybe in real estate like you did.
Yeah.
And a lot of us think that the career pivot is going to take a long time.
Mm.
And that's not our fault because a lot of the conventional career advice you hear out in the wild that aren't specific for people like us is that, oh, it's going to take a long time. You might have to take a bridge role first. It might take many steps. And in many ways that is true. I am not where I started when I first pivoted out of tech, but it has always surprised me how fast this can happen. If I look back literally a year ago from today, I had just started my new role out of business school. It was more of a strategic role at at a B2B SaaS company, and I was just making a shift into product marketing because I had advocated for myself and put myself onto that path. And fast forward, a year later, I'm doing this at a Series A startup. We're growing really fast. Our team almost doubled in the past year.
Wow.
And I think just looking back, I wouldn't have expected something like that to happen that fast. And we can talk about how I got there, but I think for a lot of people in our seats, you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of credibility, and these things can happen for you much faster than you think.
So to not be afraid of it.
Yeah.
So I want to dig further into that. Like, what gave you that confidence to just make the moves that you have, and also to kind of let go of the fear of, okay, this is going to end up shaking out?
I think confidence isn't something that you're given. It's something that you build and you create every single day, right? I think for me, it just took taking that first step. And, as you do your first interviews, as you make your first cold outreaches, as you look for mentors, as you learn something new, it compounds little by little, right? And I don't know that there was a single moment that necessarily gave me confidence, but, as you show up and people start resonating with you, whether it's in terms of helping you get a job pivot, or if you're building a business and you get customers who resonate with you, I think that is the confidence that compounds.
And was there anyone along the way, like a mentor, or a sponsor, or supporters, or your network that helped you kind of make this career move and continue to grow in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you've probably said and heard time and time again that the community and the people are everything. And in my case, it's been very true. And in one particular area, I think I have been very fortunate in that I've almost always had managers and role models at work who have supported me looking for the next thing. And I think that has been crucial to teaching me that even in other environments where I don't have this is something that I can look for. And the specific person and example that I always think back to is my first manager when I joined Morgan Stanley. Funny enough, I actually joined in sales and trading initially for my internship. And I made it very clear to this manager that I eventually wanted to move into investment banking because that was the thing that I had always seen myself doing in college. And he essentially said, hey, come back for your full-time offer. We're going to figure it out. I want to help you have a long career here. I want to help you grow. I want to help you figure out your next step. And, funny enough, this was the same person who, when I ended up leaving Morgan Stanley, said, I understand. I look forward to seeing what you're going to do next. And this is someone I still keep in touch with today because that sense that you can use where you are right now to figure out what's next, what skills you have, what you want to build, that is so powerful.
Yeah. It's great that you kept that relationship going because you never know when those people are going to be there for you along the way and be able to support and continue to advocate for you. I actually, right before this recording, was at coffee with someone and ran into a former colleague of mine. And he was like, Marilynn, like, I've loved cheering you on and supporting you. And I see what you're doing and what you're building. So it's building influence. It's being out there. It's building those relationships.
100%. Yeah.
So I want to talk more about just building your personal brand because you've built an incredible creator platform. You've built an awesome following. So want to kind of learn more about what inspired you to start building on social media and, building your influence.
This is coming at such a funny time, Marilynn, because yesterday I was looking through my old iPhone notes. I was looking for something. I don't know what at this point, but I found a note called content ideas. And I thought it was something from the last couple of weeks because, I have a lot of them, but it was dated March 2022.
Wow.
And so I had written down a list of things that, I wanted to start posting on TikTok because a lot of people were posting on TikTok then. Nobody was posting on LinkedIn yet back then. And so I had a whole list of ideas and I looked back and a lot of them were about sharing my journey, sharing my career path. And just this whole sense that a lot of people don't leave the paths that we're on. And I wanted to show them that this is something that's possible and what had helped me along the way. So in a way, that was perhaps the inspiration. It's the sense of something that I've wanted to do for a really, really long time. And I did it. And I realized that I did it in bits and pieces. I had published a Medium article about why I left banking because I really wanted to to have that voice. I've mentored a lot of people. I've spoken just to people who asked me for coffee chats, and I realized I wanted a bigger platform to do the same thing and to help more people in doing that. And on the personal side, maybe a little bit more selfishly too, I was first starting to look into marketing and go to market, and I wanted a way to be able to build my marketing skills very, very tangibly. I was doing B2B product marketing, which looks very different than marketing to someone one-on-one. And I wanted to learn that skill. And I figured content creation is one of the best, most tangible, even if most scary ways.
Yeah. What kind of got you over the hump of it being like scary?
The people. Really, it is the people, and I mean that in several ways. It's a cold start problem that I'm sure you've read about in startups, right? It's that the flywheel gets going once you start posting your first videos. People start responding. People like it. People comment. People reach out to you. And when I heard what people had to say, whether it was, hey, this really inspired me. Hey, this tip was really helpful, or I really resonate with your story. That's what kept me going, because it was no longer the sense of what are people going to think. It's more so,
how can I help?
How can I help? That's exactly what I wanted to say. And then on the other hand, the other hand with people is, I think a great example is right now, right? I think you and I have a similar story in many ways. In many ways, you're quite a few steps ahead of me, and so I've been able to meet so many people, whether it's other folks building in the career space, in personal finance, creators, marketers, just people who inspire me, and you're collaborating, and in a way this is work, but it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. Well, it's also like for both of us here, building our personal and professional brands. I'm a huge proponent of this portfolio career, that even if you are a woman in corporate working a 9 to 5, you can have other things that you do outside of that job that can fuel the work that you do 9 to 5. And it seems like with your platform and what you have built, that has helped you with your full-time job as well.
Yes, 100%. I think part of the reason I'm here today is that I know you're someone with very much a portfolio career, because you're building this, you're investing, and I know you're also building something new this year, right? And I think in many ways it's looking for the common threads between what you do in one thing, how does it compound and build to the next thing. And for me, that flywheel is something I've absolutely seen in the last 4 to 6 months, is that I got my current job because I post on LinkedIn. It's as simple as that. And in my day-to-day, I do marketing on both fronts. It's a very different type of marketing. And sometimes when you step out of your initial realm, you get ideas, you get best practices, you get things that really compound into the other realm as well.
Yeah. I love that point that you make too, of when you step out of the box, like your day to day, and you meet people and you experience things and you put yourself out there and you get involved in different areas, that kind of opens your eyes to new opportunities that, again, can help with your day to day. And for me specifically, that was kind of business school, because it brought me out of corporate and real estate and showed me that, there's other paths that you can take, and you can leverage your skills in these different ways. Doesn't have to be linear.
That's a huge part of the value of business school, right? It's not actually the classes. It's not even the career opportunities many of the time. It's the community and the people that you meet along the way who are going to get you the jobs and the opportunities.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to, say, the woman that's working in corporate that may want to start posting on social media, or maybe she wants to create a community, or maybe she wants to do something else that's building her brand and her influence and giving her these different perspectives? What would you say to her of how to get started?
What a great but also difficult question to answer. It's funny. I actually was just speaking to someone about this earlier this morning, and the advice I gave her, which she asked me a very similar question, was start with your why. Don't think about it as I want to create a side project, or I want to post content, because what happens then is you end up falling into comparison traps, right? Because you say, I want to post content, and then you look at other people posting content and you're saying, oh, I could never do that, or they're doing it so much better, or they're talking about the exact thing I want to talk about. And that sort of clouds your brain. And this is also something, I'm sure I deal with, you deal with, anyone who's an entrepreneur or starting their own thing, or just even on a certain path in their career does this. So again, start with your why, right? Like you might think, okay, you might have come to the conclusion of, oh, I want to create content on social media, whether it's LinkedIn for your professional brand or Instagram because you want to post lifestyle content. What's your why, right? Is it that you want to do something a little bit more creative outside of your typical corporate sphere? Or is it that you want to build a personal brand that compounds with your professional career? And then everything else then I think falls from that, right? It's that if you want to build something professional, LinkedIn is your channel. And then if you want to build something that's tapping into your creativity, maybe that's Instagram, maybe that's TikTok, maybe that's starting a Substack. A lot of people are doing that these days. And then I would match that to where you feel your particular skills stand out. If you're not a video person, then start a Substack, right? And I think a lot of that stems from the why, as it is for so many decisions in our lives.
Yeah. So I will say I just kind of went through this process with myself and my own kind of content that I've been building. I started off with this pressure of like, you just need to post content, and didn't lead with the why. And it took me down this path of it feeling overwhelming, and I wasn't interested in it. And it just was like too much. And I've started to approach it this way of leaning more into, okay, why am I doing this? And it's actually helped me become more authentic, and it's helped me not feel so overwhelmed by it. So I love that advice of lead with the why.
Yeah. And this is something that I find myself returning back to as well, because I've experienced the exact same thing as you do. I probably experience it on a weekly basis, and something that I try to do. And, sometimes the execution doesn't always work, but I do think it compounds, is that before I write any piece of content, I sit and I literally think about the person that I'm speaking to. And I have a doc where I've actually written out the exact persona of this one person. And this is actually something that I recently heard Mel Robbins say on a podcast. And, she was sort of making the point that a lot of people think her content is cringe or not helpful, right? But she doesn't care, because she's speaking to one person every single time. And that's what I feel like has helped her have such viral growth. It's because she's not speaking to everyone.
Yeah, I like that perspective, because it's so true that even if you're helping one person, you're helping one person, and that's incredible. So I want to shift gears and get your perspectives on what the job market has been like and what you think the job market will be like in 2026.
I think this is a question that we hear so much in the media, and media always tends to be pessimistic. So it's that the job market is terrible. And by many respects, it is, right? I think 2025 saw a ton of layoffs across finance, consulting, tech. The way that I would maybe reframe this question is, what does the job market look like for people who look like you? Right. And I would maybe shift that question so that it doesn't become this overwhelmingly pessimistic picture. And really what we're seeing, I think, among people who work in finance, consulting, and tech is, in many ways, it is a very negative picture, right? It's still those pictures of layoffs, but there's a corner of brightness that I've seen, maybe a bit in our world, is that you see a lot more people leaving those paths and creating a career that feels like their own, right? Whether it's the surgence of the term portfolio career. And I mean, you can literally see that Google searches or, Reddit comments about this has increased, or about building a personal brand, right? And they're all responding to the same career question of, hey, the job market is terrible for us, but how can we work around that? What is our solution to that problem? And I think that is the spot of brightness that I'm seeing.
Well, I talk a lot about this personally too, and inside of Her Workplace, of taking ownership of your career, because I think it's so important to come to that realization that no one's going to build and grow your career for you. And so we're probably seeing more of that entrepreneurial spirit, or having side hustles, or building this portfolio career, because it gives you more autonomy. And that's what people want. And I think especially for women that are caregiving, and women that are growing in their careers, and they're building families, and they're becoming leaders and managers, they want more of that ownership.
Yeah, absolutely. And, specifically for women, I feel like one of the really hard things for me when I was leaving investment banking was this idea that I was almost letting a lot of women down because I was quitting. Because I think there's such a narrative in a lot of corporate worlds, especially these places of high finance, consulting, tech. I keep coming back to that, but that's the world that I think a lot of us come from. And there's this narrative that women are disadvantaged. It's a boys' club. It's hard to make it to the top, right? And all of that is true. And, that's part of what your platform is trying to solve. But the problem that creates is that, you feel like more of a failure when you exit, because it's not just that you're letting yourself down. It almost feels like you're not paving the way for future women. You're letting other people down too because you're a bad example, right? None of that is actually true. And I think this new rise that we're seeing of women with portfolio careers, building their personal brands, just being entrepreneurs and building businesses around it, I think it's a new type of empowerment that says, we can step off those traditional ladders that probably weren't built for us and find success and much greater success in a different path.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. It truly is, not every system is built to support women. And like you said, it's a lot of the work that we do at Her Workplace of like trying to help solve this problem of why can't women be successful, or why aren't there enough women stepping into leadership roles within these types of structures? And, I think time will tell, unfortunately. What do you think the future of work for women looks like?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what we are both talking about and what we embody, right? It's that I know you recently stepped into motherhood. That's a challenge, of course, but at the same time, you're a successful entrepreneur. Your business did over 200K in revenue the first year that you launched. Yes, I researched you, of course. Those are things that I think increasingly we're going to see women's careers and reflections on women's careers say that in the same breath, right? You're a mother and you're an entrepreneur. There's no contradiction, and it's about the ability to merge your life and career in a way where work feels like play, and play feels like work in many ways. And I think the fact that there are more platforms and more voices, of which I think we're both lucky to be part of that, who are championing that view, I think is very, very powerful.
Yeah. So how do you integrate your work in your life?
It's a great question. I think for me, it's the common thread that I'm doing marketing in both senses.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or lie. Like, my full-time job day to day is as a startup marketing leader. That is not an easy job.
Yeah.
It is very intense. I was a team of one for the last few months. Now we're a team of two, and that's something that I'm still figuring out every single day.
Yeah.
And really, it's about being in two different realms where I can tap into the same skill set, borrow and compound between both of them. And the thing about a portfolio career is that, you're not locked into always juggling all of those things. It might mean taking a step to focus on one of them, or it might be taking on something new, right? And so I think there's a way to find focus even when you're juggling different realms.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, some days you may be more focused here, other days are more focused there, and that's okay. I think it's just trying to relieve that pressure of you don't have to be 100% doing everything at once all the time. It's just not realistic, and that's fine. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we close every episode with 3 questions just to learn more about how you're leading and growing and advancing both personally and professionally. I want you to share, what is a habit or practice that you do daily that kind of keeps you grounded?
I'm not a productivity guru, and this is something I'm always trying to learn more about. But I would say the one is I'm pretty good about exercising consistently. And that can range from actually going to the gym or a workout class and getting a full workout in, or it can literally mean walking on the walking pad treadmill under my desk, right? And so, I give myself that leeway, but there's something every single day because your mind and body are just so connected. I think that for a lot of women, especially in these, very corporate environments, we neglect that until we can't neglect it anymore.
Yeah. And it helps increase productivity.
Yes.
Or it just helps you perform better.
Yes.
I'm a true believer in that too. What's a belief about success that you've had to unlearn?
How to not compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
This is the biggest one. And I think it comes up again and again for a lot of people who have just been, overachievers and now recovering overachievers. And I was recently rereading the book, Psychology of Money, which is a great one about wealth and career. And one thing that stood out to me there was, that you shouldn't compare yourself to people who aren't playing the same game as you, whether it's in wealth or in your career. Because if someone else's goal is getting that promotion in consulting and yours is not, you can't compare yourself. You're playing a different game.
Yeah, everyone's on a different path. What does embracing this like non-linear career and trusting the pivots mean to you today?
So it's not actually about the nonlinear career. It's about what we get with the nonlinear career. It's the fact that trying a lot of things, especially when we're younger in our 20s and 30s and exploring, it's that allows us to figure out what we actually want, where is our zone of genius, where what we're good at and what we love doing intersects. How can we double down on that after we found that out through the nonlinear paths and then adjusting and pivoting as you go? It's about what that gets you. And at the end of the day, it's figuring out, how that gets you to your goal. For me, it's about financial freedom. It's about being able to wake up every day and say, I love everything that I'm doing today. And if I don't, I have the choice to change that.
Yeah, I love that. And you don't have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I'm 36 and I'm still figuring it out. So
I think that continues throughout our lives, right?
Yeah. And then last question, where can people find you, follow you, engage with you?
Sure. I'm on Instagram and TikTok as Career Hannah and on LinkedIn as Hannah Zhang. And my Substack is called Nonlinear News. I plan to write a lot more this year. So that's going to be a big focus for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. It was so great to get to know you better. I've been following you for a long time and love all of the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I follow you from my personal. I follow a lot of people from my personal, and I think it's just really interesting how you've built out your career, and yeah, it's lots to learn.